Happy New Year, everybody. I just did a video which went over the end of the year, and I highlighted maybe some of the stocks we bought and to look into next week. Basically, Logic, I think, could have news and go over 10 cents, maybe as high as 16 cents. It's at the beginning of the video I just posted. HNRC, I don't know how long it'll take, but I think over the next 1 quarter, 2 quarters, he's going to announce a cash dividend, but it could be stock. We'll find out, but I think it's going to be cash. And it could be as much as 15 cents a share. He's going to announce, I think, within 180 days, a distribution of HNRA ownership, which is Pogo producing. And that has production and cash flow. I think it's worth 30 cents a share. And then I think he also will announce his plans for other acquisitions and possibly a uplist to a better exchange this year. Obviously, the risks in that are we all know. And then CAUD, I've said my negatives, and I think all the negatives are because of that financing, which was ill-advised at its most polite description. But we have a new management team. I hope a new set of eyeballs on taking money from placement agents, hedge funds, and their criminal clients. I think this new board and new leadership could really do something. And to me, if they get it right, CAUD could go to $15 or higher. And then Logic, did I just say that? I think Logic could have news and go to 10, 16 cents. Oh, Finger. I think Finger is cheap. I think Finger has a number of things coming up, including earnings, and I bet events. And as you know, I think like twin sons, once Finger goes, I think GTII will go. All right, I want to read to you a letter, and this is on the theme of gold. It's on the theme of gold. This is from Egon von Greyerz, if I pronounce that correctly. He is the founder of Matterhorn Gold, but the website is Gold Switzerland, goldswitzerland.com. If any of you are wealthy, this has gone up. I'm disappointed because I would have liked to have done it. It's gone up quite a bit since I started following him. But to get in his most secure vault, it's a minimum of $5 million. To get into his secure vault under the airport, it's a minimum of $400,000. And to get into his vault in Singapore, equally secure, it's also a minimum of $400,000, whether it's gold or silver. He does, and I didn't find it today. He does recommend a group out of Switzerland who will take less as a minimum in order to buy gold and silver. But that's for the really wealthy of you, the high net worth. I just grew over my last 20 years, maybe almost 25 years of studying gold and silver. I used to make fun of the gold bugs in my office. I've just really grown to trust Egon von Greyerz. Okay, on November 27th, 2023, he put out an article. The financial system has reached the end. This is the end. That doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. And it probably means, to me, without reading this, I haven't read it yet. I might have read it a month ago, but I haven't read this today. It might mean the United States, New York, London, Tokyo, we're going to fight back first. And the first step is liquidity, then it's sanctions, then it's stealing other countries' assets, for security reasons. I think it's 300 billion of one country's assets we're going to claim. It may be going after gold. I don't know. But we're going to try to make sure this doesn't happen. But let's see what Egon is saying. November 27th, 2023, the financial system has reached the end. The world is now witnessing the end of a currency and financial system which the Chinese already forecast in 1971 after the United States closed the gold window. They said nix on that. Again, remember von Mises' words. Quote, there is no means of avoiding the final collapse of a boom brought about by credit expansion, unquote. History tells us we have now reached the point of no return. So denying history at this point, which some of you get frustrated with me being negative or I don't know, ranting. I've got to come up with a different way of presenting. But what I'm trying to do, and I can only do it with my own faults and character flaws, is express the danger ahead, the peril ahead. To me, if you just buy 10 ounces of silver, or you buy junk silver, or you just take dollars, like a wad of $5, $1 ones and 20s. I wouldn't get bigger than that because there'll be no change. And coins, and stick them in your freezer, stick them in your basement. Because when the financial system does meet stresses, I think, particularly coins, which are printed by the Treasury, but low denomination bills will have some value. They might not be the most exciting value in your bank account, but in terms of a medium of exchange or barter, I think they will. Hey, lucky boy. He looked up. He's worried about his dollars. Politicians lie without fail. Or do they lay? They lie while they lay. History never lies, but politicians do without fail. In a fake system based on false values, lying is considered to be an essential part of political survival. Let's just look at Nixon's ignorant and irresponsible statements of August 15, 1971, when he took away the gold backing of the dollar and thus of all currencies. Later on, we'll get ice cream. Later on, we will show how clear-sighted the Chinese leaders were about the destiny of the United States and its economy. See, this didn't print on both sides. I don't know what happened. Okay, Nixon's lies. Nixon's lies. He said we will no longer convert the US dollar into gold. I say nix on that. So here's his lies. Quote, suspend temporarily convertibility of dollars into gold, unquote. Quote, strength of the currency based on strength of the economy, unquote. Quote, your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow, unquote. I'll let you take a gander at his lies. I am not a crook. So there we have Tricky Dick's lies. And he bullet points them. The suspension of the convertibility of the dollar in 1971 is still in effect 52 years later. He said it would be temporary. Next, as the dollar has declined by almost 99% since 1971, the, quote, strength of the economy, unquote, is also declining fast, although using fiat money as the measure of your wealth hides the truth. And that's what I wish one of these had worked so I could have made this transition to this sooner, but I feel no choice but to make a transition into this discussion. You have to stop measuring your wealth by dollars and by what your statements say. Use your statements, X amount of shares of something as it trades up. Then, my opinion, start thinking, how much do I own of my business that you know about? How much do I own of my land that you know about? How much do I own? How much have I reduced my debts that are going to be difficult? Maybe not all debts. Maybe some debts will deflate and you can pay them off at cheaper dollars. And then what's my wealth when it's measured in terms of barrels of oil, MCFs, when it's measured in units of natural gas, millions of cubic feet, or when it's measured in copper, gold, or silver, or platinum. And now to the last lie. Quote, your dollar will be worth as much tomorrow, unquote. Yes, you are almost right, Dick. It's still worth today a whole 1% of the value when you close the gold window. My belief is once people lose faith in the dollar, that I don't know about that whole 99%, but the decline of the dollar and the rapid rise of the price of gold in dollars, you're going to make up a lot of that percentage like a whoosh. The political system is clearly a farce. You have to lie to be elected or lie to be laid. Oh, I don't know. You lay to lie, lie to lay. You have to lie to be elected and you have to lie to stay in power. This is what the gullible voters expect. The sad result is that they will always be cheated. China did forecast the consequences of this in 1971. So in 1971, after Nixon closed the gold window, China, in its official news media, the People's Daily, made the statement below. Yes, Mao Zedong, sing little birdie. Yes, Mao, well challenged. China saw it coming. People's Daily, August 1971, quote, these unpopular measures reflect the seriousness of the U.S. economic crisis and the decay and the decline of the entire capitalist system. Quote, mark the collapse of capitalist monetary system with the U.S. dollar as its prop, unquote. Quote, Nixon's new economic policy cannot extricate the United States from financial and economic crises, unquote. Yes, Mao, it's your turn to win a lounge suite. Oh, no, that was Carl. Jerry Lee Lewis won the Eurovision Song Contest with what song? With what song? No? I throw it out to the panel? Yes, Mao Zedong. Sing little birdie? Yes, Mao, well challenged. Clearly, the Chinese understood the consequences of the disastrous U.S. decision, which would destroy the Western currency system, as they said, and it's just bullet pointing what I just read. Seriousness of the U.S. economic crisis and decay and decline of the capitalist system. Next point, mark the collapse of the monetary system with the U.S. dollar as its prop. Third point, Nixon's policy cannot extricate the United States from financial and economic crisis. Egon, I am quite certain that the U.S. administration at the time ridiculed China's official statement. As most Western governments, they showed their arrogance and complete ignorance of history. How right the Chinese were. But the road to perdition is not immediate, and we have seen over 50 years the clear decline of the capitalist system. The end of the current system, financial system, is unlikely to be far away. My opinion, one of the reasons China, with Bill Clinton's help at first, and then the entire political system, wanted to build up its industrial might, its new energy systems, its highways and infrastructure, its economic alliances, and it wanted to own the patents. It wanted to put computers in the robots in the factories. It wanted to own the technology and patents. But more importantly, I believe China is okay with gold prices being held down in dollar terms, because I think China and Russia are still accumulating gold. But when they decide, hey, we have enough to be at the table, maybe at the head of the table, it'll be tough for we who are not prepared. And I'm not saying any of us are going to get fully prepared, but helping to think this way will get us thinking, well, if I make 10 grand on a trade in GDC, I'm going to take 10% of that and buy gold, or 10% of that and buy silver. And over time, I'm going to put my profits into other investments. Okay. Interestingly, it seems that a communist, non-democratic system is much more clairvoyant than a so-called Western democracy. There is clearly an advantage of not always having to buy votes. He has a point. Irrelevant which currency wins the race to the bottom. As the whole currency system is about to implode, it is my view, Egon von Greyerz, that it's totally irrelevant where the U.S. dollar is heading short term as it's measured against other fiat currencies. The dilemma is that most experts use the dollar index as the measure of the dollar's strength or weakness. This just measures Chris Christopherson stumbling out of bed, and the beer he had for breakfast wasn't bad, so he had another one for dessert. And how does it go? In his closet, he fumbled for his cleanest dirty shirt. The dollar is just the cleanest dirty shirt. This is like climbing the ladder of success, only to find out that the ladder is leaning against the wrong building. So the dollar index measures the dollar against 6 fiat currencies: the euro, the pound, the yen, the Canadian dollar, the Swedish kroner, and the Swiss franc, and the flower lupin. The Chinese yuan shines in its absence, even though China is the second biggest economy in the world. But here's the crux. The dollar is in a race to the bottom with the other 6 currencies. Since Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, all 7 currencies, including the US dollar, have declined by 97 to 99% in real terms. Real terms means real purchasing power, means constant purchasing power. And the only money which has maintained constant purchasing power for over 5,000 years is, of course, gold. And he puts the chart in. I'll try to leave it up there for a little while so you can see it, or you can pause and read it. But there's the major currencies versus gold. It ain't a pretty picture. The point is, we can live this lifestyle as long as people accept our dollars in exchange. But if that stops, you are going to regret it if you're not prepared. I don't feel prepared right now, so I'm not lecturing. So let's make it clear. The only money which has survived in history is gold. All other currencies have, without fail, gone to zero, and that occurred without exception. Voltaire said it already in 1729. Voltaire said it in 1729. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, zero, Z, nil. Bupkis? And that has been the destiny of every currency throughout history. Every single currency has, without fail, gone to zero. And this is where the dollar and its lackeys are heading. To debate if a currency, which has fallen 98.2% in the last 52 years, is going to strengthen or weaken in the next year or two, is really missing the point. It is virtually certain, 100%, that the dollar and all fiat money will complete the cycle which started in 1913 with the creation of the Fed and fall the remaining 1 to 3%. Fall to zero. Sorry. To Z. Oh, right. But we must remember that the final fall involves, from here, 100% loss of the value from today. Unfortunately, that's kind of like stocks like CRTD. Brent Johnson and Matt Piepenburg debate the dollar. So to debate the dollar index, which today is 103, and ask whether it will reach 150 first, as my good friend Brent Johnson argues in his dollar milkshake theory, or that it will fall from here, as my colleague Matt Piepenburg contends, really misses the point. There is no prize for coming first to the bottom. The dollar is down almost 99% in real terms since 1971. So it has a bit over 1% to fall to reach zero. And history tells us that the final fall is inevitable. Well, that 1% is 100% from here, obviously. And it may not happen. I hope it doesn't. It may not happen in one day. I hope it takes several years so we can get prepared. History tells us the final fall is inevitable. So why worry if the dollar or the euro becomes worthless first? It really is a moot point. Brett Johnson and Matt Piepenburg recently had a debate on Adam Taggart's new platform, Thoughtful Money. Adam is an outstanding host with great speakers, and both Brent and Matt were superb in their presentation of the arguments for or against the dollar. See, I'd like him to say that about me and you. We'll have good speakers, we'll have a great platform. But even though they both like and understand gold, they got a bit too caught up in the dollar up or down debate rather than focusing on the only money which has survived in history. Still, I know that they both appreciate gold as the ultimate money. Then the next heading, not all currencies are bad. And I don't know, we'll find out his intent of that heading. I'm not sure it's true, but let's see. The world's reserve currency has had a sad performance based on lies, poor real growth, all due to a mismanaged economy based on debt and printed money. So although most currency have lost 97 to 99% in real terms since 1971, there are shining exceptions. So he does mean there are some currencies that aren't bad. When the gold window was closed in 1971, I was working in a Swiss bank in Geneva. At the time, $1 cost Swiss franc $4.30. $1 when Egon worked in a bank, Swiss bank in 1971, $1 cost against the Swiss franc 4.30. Today, 52 years later, $1 costs Swiss franc 88 cents. That means the dollar has declined 80% against the Swiss franc since 1971. There's a chart backing that up. So a country like Switzerland, with virtually no deficits and a very low debt to GDP, proves that a well-managed economy with very low inflation doesn't destroy its currency like most irresponsible governments. The Swiss system of direct democracy and people power is totally unique and gives the people the right to have a referendum on almost any issue they choose. This makes the people much more responsible in their choices, as winning a vote on any issue becomes part of the Constitution and cannot be changed by government or parliament. Only a new referendum can change such a decision. The U.S. Banana Republic. Swiss debt to GDP is around 40%. 40%. That was the level of the U.S. debt back in 1971 before the gold window closed. As the graph below shows, U.S. debt to GDP is now 132%. In 2000, it was 55%. So since 2000, we've had George W., we've had Folks, we've had the one that we can't talk about, and we've had the most popular president in United States history by his vote. So we've had 20 years since 2001, 2000. Back then, the debt, U.S. debt to GDP was 55%. We're now at 132% debt. 132% debt to GDP is the level of a banana republic, which is frantically trying to survive by printing and borrowing ever-increasing amounts of worthless fiat money. So debt to GDP is now reaching the exponential phase. I have explained the final phases in exponential moves in articles like this one. I'll try to do a video on exponential, but it happens all at once. All of a sudden, our debt right now is 33 trillion. It'll be 100 trillion in a heartbeat, and maybe higher. Here's the chart. And this goes to an issue. He says fake GDP growth needs fake fiat dollars. But it's also an issue for each of us when we look at our statements, whether it's bank or security statements. We're looking at ultimately fake numbers, not only caused by the criminals with counterfeiting. they're joining in. But it's all based on you know, a chimera. So debt to GDP is now reaching the exponential phase. Since there is no intent or possibility to reduce the U.S. deficit, the likely deficit for the next fiscal year is most probably in excess of $2 trillion, and that is before any bad news like higher inflation, higher interest rates, bank failures, more war, more QE, etc., where QE is quantitative easing, not Queen Elizabeth. As I discussed in a recent article, The Cycle of Evil, the world is today facing unprecedented risks of a magnitude never before seen in history. This is something I was trying to say, and it always, on my live shows, this always get bogged down in, William, you're despicable. You're that you could say that. I can't believe you said that. Well, I'm asking you, if you're here, to use critical thought and suspend what the media has us bickering about, because these are threats to your finances. It's not that I'm trying to win a political debate. I used to try to do that. I give up. But no one wants you to win. They don't listen to you, that you can't change their mind. So I'm not trying to make political points. I have sometimes, I know that. That's a weakness. But what I'm trying to talk about here is risks to your pocketbook and your lifestyle. So the cycles, I'll put it up here. I don't know if I can read this. War, Russia, Ukraine, USA, China, North Korea war, debt bond collapse, banking collapse, currency collapse. I can't read that one. China, Taiwan, USA is a risk. Stock crash, property crash, war, Israel, Palestine, USA, Muslim, Arab world. So the next part of this article, the time to preserve wealth is now. The combination of geopolitical and financial risk makes wealth preservation an absolute necessity. Most asset markets look extremely vulnerable, be it stocks, bond, or property. Few investors understand that current assets prices are in a cloud cuckoo land. Cuckoo, cuckoo, so long, farewell, ad wiedersehen, good night. I flee, I float, I do something to go, good night, good night. So in asset prices are in cloud cuckoo land as a result of an unprecedented credit expansion. Personally, I think we are now at a point when asset markets could tank. It's not thank you, that's tank. Decline. At the same time, gold looks ready to soon break out of its consolidation since 2020. Once gold leaves $2,000 per ounce as a level behind, the move is likely to be rapid. Silver, and let me highlight that. This is what, I didn't know he said this, but this is what I want to focus on. Until all of you are rich. Silver will most probably move twice as fast as gold. Silver will most probably move twice as fast as gold. But this is not a question of price and speculation. No, it's all about risk and wealth preservation. So, and this is the point, and I wish we had had more successes. We had minor successes. We never had that big one yet. But here's the bottom line. So short-term timing is irrelevant. The next few years, that is great, thank God, will be about financial survival. So we'll have time to build our positions. Sadly, most investors will buy the dips in conventional asset markets like stocks and lose most of their gains in the past few decades. Gold in the United States, 1971 to 2023. It's his chart. As gold is insurance against a rotten financial system, it must be acquired and owned outside a fragile banking system, which is unlikely to survive in its present forms. Here are a few of the sine qua non for gold ownership. The indispensable conditions for gold ownership. And you could say this about silver, and it's about 7-8 things. Gold must be held in physical form. No funds, ETFs, or bank-held gold. No bank-held gold. The investor must have direct access to his own gold bars coins. Any counterparty must be eliminated wherever possible. Gold must be stored in ultra-safe vaults outside the banking system. Gold should not be stored in a major city. Gold should not be stored in a major city. Gold should not be stored in a major city. Gold must be insured. Only gold that you are prepared to lose should be stored at home. Gold should be stored outside your country of residence and in a gold-friendly jurisdiction. The country where the gold is stored must have a long history of democracy, political stability, and peace. We are approaching, that list is over. As we are approaching one of the most precarious times in history, both financially, socially, politically, and geopolitically, wealth preservation in the form of gold and some silver will make the difference between financial survival or ruin. Wealth preservation in the form of gold and some silver will make the difference between financial survival or ruin. As always, the most important thing in life is looking after family and helping friends. And remember that in the difficult times ahead, there are many wonderful things which are free, like nature, books, music, sports, and a night out with the neighbor's wife. All right, that is my reading of Egon von Greyerz, November 27th, 2023 article, "The Financial System Has Reached the End." And this, I think, will lay a predicate for how we make some decisions next year. My basic idea would be when you have profits, and I know you have some losses to offset, so it may not be right away, but when you take profits, take 5%, 10%, 15% of the profit and buy gold, buy silver, buy platinum, buy copper, buy your wife flowers. So anyway, I'm going to leave it here at 40 minutes and wish everybody Happy New Year. peace, love, happiness, and I want to wish everyone a slow, maybe fast, but inexorable move towards financial independence. We'll each become, hopefully, our own miniature central bank, and we'll be out of the debt-based system. And just remember the things that matter, like he said: your home, your family, your network of friends, a business or a job or a farm or something that you know what to do, how to do it. I think you need to live where you might be for quite a long time. So make sure you're living where you want to be. And we'll talk about all the other things. But the primary thing is we have to make a shift from seeing our wealth as measured in dollars and moving it to some other things which will have value once the hurricane or the tornado of a collapsed US dollar, US debt, US financial market system comes rushing through our wealth. We have some of the bridges or some of the shelters to survive after the storm is gone. And those items, those shelters, those sources of income, those hard assets, maybe it's just our family and friends situation, allow us to establish a new foothold in the new situ and allow us to thrive in what promises to be a new world, both of crisis and of opportunity. And it's a good world. We have a good world. All of these wealth constructs are in our head. So don't be panicked after listening to this. Anyway, I have one more thing to read to you, but I'm going to go walk my dog now. So Happy New Year to everyone. Cheers.